Can you look there, Bridget? No.
Well, you're
Um,
muted.
well, yeah, she's muted now, but do you want more time? I don't know if you're able to change your microphone settings. Any member of the public present who wishes to make a comment, you may raise your hand, raise your digital hand. And if not, we will go on to chair's update. So my first update is that I attended the topping off ceremony of the school building project today, which was very exciting, and Sarah was there as well. It was very inspiring, and there were speeches, short speeches from Mindy Dom and someone from Joe Comerford's office, and also from Congressman McGovern's office, as well as town people, as well as myself. I gave a few remarks. And then there's this like large white beam that had been signed by students as well as community members and town officials, and I got to sign it. It was very exciting. And then the beam was sort of like lifted by a large crane and put in place as the final beam in the project. So that was really lovely, and thank you to the town of Amherst for putting on that ceremony. The next thing I want to do is just make a statement regarding our budget process. Oh, sorry, Deb, go ahead.
Hi, I was wondering if Dr. Z was there.
She wasn't able to make it, and Shannon gave some remarks in Dr. Z's place.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to make a statement regarding our budget process. And this is in reaction to or in response to a meeting of the Finance Committee of the Town Council that I attended along with Dr. Z and Shannon. Time has no meaning, but a week or two ago. So it's just a statement about the process first. First, I want to thank the community for its continued engagement and support as we work to ensure that our budget reflects our school community's values while also acknowledging our difficult financial situation. Our responsibility as a school committee is to assess the needs of our students, educators, and schools, and to approve a budget that reflects those needs with integrity, care, and transparency. This year, after an exhaustive and collaborative process involving educators, administrators, and community members, the school committee voted to approve a budget that represents a 6% increase over last year. This increase is not arbitrary, it is intentional, and it is a direct response to rising costs, state mandated requirements, and the evolving needs of our student population. It is the role of this body, the Amherst School Committee, to determine what is necessary to meet the needs of the district. It is the role of the town council to take that determination under advisement as they shape the broader town budget. While we understand and respect the council's responsibility to balance competing priorities across departments, we are concerned, or rather I should say I am concerned, by the recent shift from budgetary approval to budgetary second guessing. Let me be clear, it is not within the purview of the town council to dissect the internal operations of the school budget or to relitigate the decisions that were made at the school committee level. Doing so oversteps their role and undermines the work of the school committee, we who are the elected representatives entrusted with this responsibility. The school committee stands behind the budget we have approved. It reflects what our students need. We invite continued dialogue and cooperation, but I personally will continue to push back when the school committee, the superintendent, the finance director, or other district leaders are put in a position to defend the educational needs of our community when they are challenged inappropriately. I want to thank the community again as we advocate together for the best possible future for our schools and our students. Thank you. And that's my chair's update. Are there any, the next agenda item is school committee member updates. Are there any member updates? Sarah.
Yeah, just a little bit of an update on the district's capital requests that JCPC worked on along with, requests from other departments. So we had finished our report a few weeks ago. The town manager submitted the FY 2026 capital improvement plan to town council, and it includes all the recommendations that we made for the schools. I think it contains all of our recommendations, but in any case, the ones specifically for the schools. And there will be a public forum on that capital improvement plan at the council meeting, I believe on June 2nd. And then at some point in June, town council will vote on it.
Great.
I think-
That's great news. Thank you, Sarah. Any other school committee member updates? Okay, our next agenda item is approving minutes, and I'm so sorry. I had grand plans to have our backlog of minutes ready for tonight, but I don't have them. But I will have the March 20th, April 15th, and tonight's minutes ready to be approved at our June meeting. The next item is superintendent's update. I believe, or do we have, is Megan going to present the superintendent's update?
Yes, I will be presenting on behalf
Great.
of the superintendent. I just need 1 minute to get my presentation up.
Sure. And if you have trouble sharing screen or whatever, let me know and I can see if that needs to be fixed.
Sorry, just having a technical issue. Give me like 10 seconds.
No problem.
I've got it on my screen if you'd like me to share it, Megan.
I got it. It was more so getting my camera on and presenting all at once and getting the PowerPoint blown up. But I think I got it though. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for letting me do this presentation on behalf of Dr. Z. I did want to let you know that the reason that she cannot be present tonight is because she is attending her nephew's graduation, which is really meaningful and important to her. So she wishes she could be here, but regardless, she's really happy that we're still able to have this presentation. As always, just a quick overview of the district priorities, which are student safety and well-being, healing and stabilization of the district, and data and accountability for equity. Here's a few highlights of things that have been happening within our schools. Additionally, before I go over these, I did want to note that we have been continuing our learning walks in each of the schools, which I have been able to attend with Dr. Z recently with the Early Learning Center, Crocker Farm, Wildwood, and Fort River. I really enjoy these learning walks, and I was able to join Dr. Z at all of them, including the Early Learning Center, which for me was super enjoyable because I used to teach preschool and I was able to kind of get back into those classrooms and see what our educators are doing. At Fort River, our second graders are working on writing books, specifically working on narrative writing skills and writing books on topics that interest them, such as animals, their favorite hobbies, and they're illustrating stories, as well as working on proofreading. At Crocker, some of our first grade students are exploring embryology as part of a science unit, which they are getting support from UMass to do that, and students are incubating eggs and preparing to hatch chicks. And then at Wildwood, our fourth grade students in Miss George's class are learning to write persuasive essays and thesis papers, and each student is selecting a topic that they care about and working on crafting strong supporting arguments. For some reason, it's not letting me go to the next screen. Oh, there we go. Next, I wanted to give an update on restructuring. One of the things that we talked about is the fact that a lot of the community conversation has been very focused on the sixth grade transition, which is something that's happening, but it's really important for our office to emphasize that the district restructuring involves much more than that. It's a very comprehensive plan, which includes also the building of a new K through 5 elementary school, improvements to our other schools, and the continued development of the Early Learning Center. This last week, leadership from across the district, including principals, assistant principals, and central office staff, met and we began outlining a project timeline, which we hope to share with the community prior to the start of the new school year. That involved identifying major areas of focus, such as redistricting and school assignment planning, academic programming and student transitions, staffing and human resources, facilities, operations and logistics, community building and celebrations, and ongoing communication channels. If you're interested, I can put this in writing. I just was unable to fit everything on this slideshow. So the purpose of having these categories is to help guide planning. And then in each area, we do plan to assign specific tasks and deliverables to different groups. And the leadership team is going to continue to meet bi-weekly. And as planning progresses, we anticipate that we'll form smaller working groups so that we can focus a little more deeply on those areas. And we are really looking forward to kind of being more engaged with the community as we move forward as well. And obviously, if you have questions, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability at the end. Here's the Amherst calendar, which just highlights some of the things that are happening at our schools, as well as some upcoming dates such as Memorial Day, which is this coming Monday. There will be no school. It mentions when the last day of school is, as well as Juneteenth. And then this is the thank you slide. I tried to capture Dr. Z's theme of usually adding a quote. I added, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." I did also, Dr. Z requested that I give a quick update on some communication protocols. We just wanted to kindly remind school committee members that communication should be going through the superintendent, which includes school visit requests, meeting invitations, and information inquiries. It's just helpful if they're routed through the superintendent's office first, because it helps ensure clarity, consistency, and coordination and collaboration within our district. And we really appreciate your understanding with that request.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any questions for Megan for the superintendent's update? Deb. You are on mute.
Hi, thank you for that, Megan. I wanted to ask about the timeline and the process for sharing the restructuring. I mean, I understand there's a lot of moving parts, but if you could elaborate on the process, or if Dr. Z could elaborate on the process of the restructuring timeline being developed, and what community input and listening sessions, and is that all just going to be rolled out in before the start of the new school year? Is there going to be discussions around it? Any of that information would be helpful.
Yeah, so the part of the reason I kept it general in terms of we plan to share the timeline with the community prior to the start of the new school year is I just don't have like specific dates of specific things that are happening yet. But I do know that we fully intend to make sure that the leaders that I mentioned across the district, the principals, assistant principals, and central office staff are involved in this process. But I know we also do want to gain community input and share as much as we can. I just don't have specific dates or like a more specific timeline, but I can make sure that I note that that request has been made.
Yeah, the process too. I mean, obviously the process is part of the development of the timeline, but a little bit of filling in around those edges would be really helpful.
You mean beyond the fact that we're forming those leaderships teams and trying to dive into specific categories? Do you just mind clarifying what you're looking for so I can kind of make sure I follow through?
Yeah, so the timeline obviously is going to be okay, so by this date, this is going to well, the building's going to be open, and this is the date we expect to be making staffing decisions by. So there's just points along the timeline that I assume will be communicated, but also like the process for developing, um, talking about the redistricting, which we're calling cashments or something like that, and community input and staff input, just really what's going to happen in addition to when, if you don't have necessarily the timeline, but you have kind of the pieces that are going to be developed.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. I just can't provide an answer at this time.
Yeah, sure, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Before we go to Sarah, Bridget had asked in the chat if we could try her mic. Want to give it a try, Bridget?
Yep, can you hear me now?
Yay!
Great. Did you have a question?
Not really. I just pretty much was thinking what Deb did. I just think there needs to be a fair amount of time for the school committee part of the process, because I remember the last time that we did this sort of like Cashman area, that it was a big conversation in town. So
Yes, that is true. Great, thank you. I have let Dr. Z know that as well, that the last time we did this, I don't even know that much about what happened, about what the community went through last time, but I know that it was a big deal. People had a lot of opinions about it, and I think it's going to need a lot of time. I also just, Megan, if you could take back to Dr. Z, I feel like like this is gonna, so this is, let's see, this is fall of 25. Sorry, I'm sorry, Sarah, I'm jumping ahead of you. This is fall of 25, right? This coming fall is fall of 25.
Yes.
And then fall of 26 is when the new school will open and when the 6th grade will move to the middle school. Sorry, I just like I sometimes have trouble keeping time in my head. I think that families should know by the start of this school year, or really early on in this school year, this fall of 25, where their student is going to go in the fall of 26. And there are going to be families who might have to change schools or might end up at a different school than they expected when the new school building opens. So I feel like we need to work on that like this summer, and at least by early fall have those catchment areas defined. Sorry, Sarah, for jumping ahead of
That's okay. My hand, it lowered itself.
No worries.
I
Go
guess
ahead.
there's a time on it. Anyway, so I have a couple questions. So, but I'll start with this, the restructuring. Frankly, I'm alarmed that we seem to be at the starting line, or maybe not even at the starting line until the fall. These are too complicated. Well, the 6th grade move, I think, is more complicated than the consolidation of the elementary schools. Moving the 6th grade, that's big, and there needs to be a lot of time to work out arrangements with the regional school committee. And I would just urge, I mean, we are where we are, but I hope that some work can be done over the summer. I don't know what exactly, but to not gear up until the fall to start having these conversations.
May I comment?
That's alarming. I'm alarmed. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I want you to get your second thought out, but I also just want to make sure I apologize if I was unclear in my miscommunication. I didn't want to give anyone the misconception that like this is the starting line, that this work and these conversations haven't already been happening. I know that there have been a lot of conversations, especially with the budget office regarding this and with operations. So I just want to make it clear that it's not like we're not starting this work for the fall. And I don't want that to be the misconception that I've given. That was when we're saying that prior to the start of the new school year, we will be sharing more specific details with the community at large. I just want to make it clear that I wasn't trying to say that this work has not started yet.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear it. And I believe, as far as I think it's zoning, I think it's rezoning, that since you need kind of town census data and who lives where and their ages, I think last time a consultant was used, but I don't know anything more. I don't know who or anything about that. But I imagine it's a kind of a geospatial puzzle, like, when you rezone for voting precincts. Anyway, my other question is, can you say more about the learning walks? This is, Dr. Z is visiting some classrooms, every classroom? I mean, what, just dropping in, or is this like part of a formal evaluation of anything, or
So,
just
it's not
getting
a
into the
formal
class?
evaluation. I do want to start with that. Sorry if I cut you off.
Sorry,
Um,
go ahead.
but- okay, sorry. I'm trying to give answers without interrupting people. But so the learning walks, as Dr. Z mentioned in some previous school committee meetings, I don't know if specifically Amherst, but they're kind of two things. We're doing one-to-ones with principals, so we're giving them an opportunity to have that one-on-one time with Dr. Z, where they can bring issues forward to her, discuss any concerns they have regarding their schools, and just kind of have that one-to-one time, as well as the curriculum aspect. So what we've been doing is we've been sending kind of a rubric to the principals ahead of time. We have the Office of Teaching and Learning accompany us on these, and we have the principal identify one classroom per visit that we go into, and we observe one or two, three if we have extra time for some reason. And we just kind of walk through and we observe each room, and we talk about some of the things that were really strong, maybe some areas that needed room for improvement. And it's not that we're evaluating those individuals, but it's so that we can really kind of get insight into what's happening in our classrooms, because at the district level, sometimes it's really hard to get that kind of vantage point. You know what happens, but you're not really seeing the teaching, and you're not getting in to see the students. So it's really an opportunity for us to learn more about what instruction is happening, maybe what instruction isn't, and seeing how we can kind of improve within the district and within our classrooms. I'd like to say that Tanya McIntyre and Stephanie Joyce have been really helpful in engaging in these and giving recommendations on behalf of the Office of Teaching and Learning. So if you have more questions, they may be good resources. As I mentioned before, route through the superintendent, but I think they would be really good people to elaborate as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Any other questions? All right, we're moving on to the next agenda item, which is warrants. I was having issues with board docs earlier today, so I will be sure to post the warrants that I have signed in the last month before the evening is over, after our meeting, before the evening's over. And then we have one gift. So I'm just going to really quickly read the gift. I move that we accept the following gift from donor Martha Ulver, number 996989 and 997009, to support Crocker Farm at Principal Discretionary Fund for a cash total of $20.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Sarah, and we'll do a roll call vote. Sarah?
Here. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Green went
Thank
black.
you.
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Jennifer is yes, and Irv?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And thank you to Martha Ulver for that gift. Moving on, our next agenda item is update on the fiscal 26 budget. So I believe that Shannon is going to present for us.
Yes, Megan's going to pull it up for me,
Great,
and then we'll walk through it.
sounds good.
I'm
I
getting
would
it up
turn
right
my
now.
camera on, but I'm in the car and I can't get a good angle in here.
Problem.
Okay. So the first one, the only reason why I include this first one is just to see the overview of the budget, and at the bottom to see how we reach the reduction that's required at a 5%, which is 1.156 million. So that's why I put this on here, but we can go on to the next slide. With the 5%, these positions were originally on the reductions list when the town of Amherst had said the guidance is 3.5%. So these positions from that 3.5% to this 5% would be restored, and were priority to be restored first, which includes 3 SE academic teachers, 1 at each elementary school, a gen ed teacher at Wildwood, a district reading teacher, and the reinstatement for specials to all be full-time, so they would not be reduced down to a 0.9. So these would all stay the same for FY26. On the next slide, I wanted to show you what our budget adjustments sheet would look like with this 5%. So the positions on the previous slide are not in here because those are not being reduced, and the funding source isn't changing. So at the top of here, it has the budget adjustments that we've talked about, which are not, those positions are remaining. It's just changing of funding sources on there. So we want to represent that. Then there's our budget additions. So I actually want to come back to this. I want to talk about the budget reductions first before I talk about the additions. So what would not be restored at the 5% is the Crocker Farm para educator and the Crocker Farm kindergarten teacher. Those were additions in the FY25 budget based on the amount of students that came into Crocker Farm. So the idea here is we're tracking kindergarten registration closely, and if a student could go to a different elementary school because there's more space there versus one, that's our idea, so we wouldn't have to have those positions, but it's variable because there hopefully there's not an influx, but if we did receive an influx, we would then need to reinstate one of those positions. But right now it seems to be okay, and we're monitoring it. I'm going to skip down to the Commandantes's para is a reduction, as well as the ELL para, a reduction of a SC district secretary, and central office reductions. Then there's other ones in between some of these lines, which are expense lines and not personnel reductions. The SLPA to an SLP reduction and the reduction of a 0.31 of the psychologist are positions that we initially were going to restore, but these positions right now are unfilled and we haven't been able to fill them yet. And speaking with SSO, the thought is we would keep those as reductions, but instead they really need an additional teacher in the ILC program. So those would be reduced, and we would instead have this ILC teacher. And that was the preference, so that we could have the funding for that. We had to figure out how we would make that work. The contingency of 21,000 here is to make the math work because none of the positions really total that. So that could be used for various things. I mean, there's always going to be expenses that come up during the year where we might need some funds. So that is where we stand right now, and I will take questions that you have.
Thank you, Shannon. Deb, go ahead.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you for this. So I received a question from the public, so I just want to make sure I understand that all the elementary school specials teachers are being restored to 100%, and it's not a phased. Some are and some are not. Yes,
that's correct. All of them will be 100%.
Okay, and my second question is about the ILC teacher. Is that the building blocks Ames teacher, or is that a different position? Because we originally on the document that we had looked at back at the end of March, that was a position that we could have restored at the 5.59%, but we. So I'm asking about that in particular.
Yep. No, it's different. Building blocks and ILC are two different programs. I'm actually glad that you mentioned the building blocks. That is the vacant SE position, the third one from the bottom as a reduction.
Okay, thank you.
And
Thank you. And the next hand I see in the queue is Bridget.
So thanks Shannon. This is very timely and really helps me understand what's been going on and what the moving parts are. So there's a total of the 10.1 positions lost and like 1.15 in net reductions, right? One question that comes up on this sheet for me is about the total number of positions lost from central admin. If they're 3.4 here, there's 3.4 on the document for the region, and then there's probably a little bit more associated with Pelham. So is that like 7 positions total that were refunded?
No.
How does
Yes.
that work?
So first, I just want to say the reduction total FTE is 8.11. The 10.11 includes the 2 positions at the very top of the budget adjustments that were moved to the revolving fund. So the central office, since those positions span over multiple districts, so if we just throwing out an example, if we had a staff member who was full year and we reduced down to school year, there's a percentage FTE that equally comes out from each district. And so that's what you're seeing here. And we're not losing 7 positions total. And most of these positions, which at some point Dr. Z could speak more to, are reductions in from like full year to school year, and I believe there's a reduction of a position, like a full 1.0 position, that Dr. Z would be able to speak to, but no, it's not 7 in total.
Okay, perfect. And like Deb, I just think we spent a couple days at her kitchen table and emailing back and forth with you a lot to try and put that Ames Building Blocks teacher back in. And so it's disappointing not to see it. And I think the reason that when I think about it, because my son went to Fort River, and that those programs really serve very different types of kids. So I think that's just really hard to imagine one person doing all that work. So I'm just putting my 2 cents in that I really don't like seeing that one on the reductions list.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Next I see Sarah.
Yes, I have 2 questions. The ILC teacher that's in addition, that's a new hire? Or
So
Well-
it could be a new hire, somebody outside, but it could also be somebody internally, and then we would have to backfill that position. But either way, it would be an additional new position that we didn't budget for.
right, and that until now. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And the reduction of the SE district secretary. So who's going to do that work?
So there's some restructuring going on with the administration of SSO. So the SE secretaries, I believe, are going to be centralized, and with that restructuring, they're dividing up some of that work.
Do you mean that they won't be doing only SE or SSO related work?
No, they'll be doing SE work, but they're restructuring the work that they're doing and dividing out who does what differently, and they'll be in one central location.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. And Deb, do you have more questions?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Shannon, next to the vacant SE position, is that a 1.0 FTE?
Yes,
The
it is. Yes,
building
so you
block-
add that to it
I
would be
think that-
9.11.
9.11 and a net of 11.11. And then I'm wondering about the math. I remembered the psychologist was 0.33, and we're not counting the SLPA to the SLP because that's essentially not reducing an FTE, it's just changing the nature of it.
Yes, so I believe there's different qualifications for an SLPA to an SLP. So it would have been the increase in salary for that position to take into account. So we won't do that.
Okay.
So we're not technically losing a person.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Any other questions for Shannon on the fiscal 26 budget?
I do. I have one more.
Okay, go ahead, Bridget.
I'm just thinking about that, the psychologist, and thinking about the total of that we always see in when we're seeing the overages and the special ed lines, and that they relate a lot to our contracted services, especially outside evaluations and that type of thing. And so I'm just wondering about the cost efficiency with that type of decision as well. And I know, Shannon, some of this is outside your purview. I'm just saying what I'm thinking, you know.
Yeah, so I would say that position is unfilled right now. So it's not a person, but that doesn't mean we don't need it. But I didn't make the decision to put that to the table. SSO, it was highly involved in the positions that relate to them. So I'm not sure that they would put it forth if it would be catastrophic, I guess is the right word. I think we could use the position. I would like to have the position. I think we all would want to fund all of these and not have to do this. But given that we have to make a reduction, that's something that SSO has put forth.
Yeah, no, I get that. I guess my concern is it cost effective overall? Because those other like big lines at the top don't have the contracts broken down in them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it boils down to I think Joanne Smith would be the best person to answer this question. I don't want to give out inaccurate information. But at the end of the day, what I will say is that there is a preference to have that ILC teacher as opposed to the psychologist and the SLP based on what the needs are that they're seeing. And unfortunately, we have to make some difficult decisions, and if there is any more advocacy with the town of Amherst that is happening, I would just like to personally say that it would be nice to see slightly more than 5% if we had 5.5%. There's some unknowns that are going to come up. Specifically, just right off the top of my head, is this Wildwood teacher for the 5th grade that we may potentially need. If we do need it, we do have a built-in contingency, which would be eaten up right away, and we have no more contingency within our budget. So if there is more advocacy going on, that's one thing that I just want to say. And then perhaps that's something that more funds after that the psychologist would come back. But in picking out what would come back first, I would leave that to the experts because I'm not an expert in those things. But I do know that we would greatly accept additional funds.
Thank you, Shannon. Deb?
Hi, yeah, thanks. Shannon, I know you're getting all the questions because you're the person presenting, but I would like the district to consolidate this information and present it. The town of Amherst is presenting its overall budget as a level services budget. The positions that are coming on the town side are also vacant positions that they're not looking to fill, but they're not single vacant positions. For instance, one of the departments I'm not remembering right now, I think there are 6 vacancies, and this is one vacancy of the 6 that they're not looking to fill. So I would like to continue to consolidate and present the information that we are in fact reducing 1.1 close to 1.15 million out of our budget. It is not a level services budget. These are not vacant positions. We did issue RIF notices. There are critical positions that are being that we had to make some really difficult choices between which staff position is going to get filled. So I really want that information to be presented in a way that refines the narrative that the town is presenting.
Okay. Yes, I will talk to Dr. Z and collaborate on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shannon. Sarah?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Deb if she knew how that could be done. For example, if Megan or whoever's controlling the screen can go back up to the first page. Yeah, one option is just to, if I'm trying to remember now, if FY26 projected is the level service, show what our final budget presumably is going to be, and then what the changes are from a level service budget. But it wouldn't have the detail necessarily.
So FY26 in that projected column would be what is level services, and then we at the bottom we have the town target at 5%, and then how much we have to reduce by.
Right.
Okay, Deb?
And just one more thing then, also the statement about the 5th grade teacher being a really kind of pushing us really to the margins in terms of what we need to, what we might have to face in the fall, should that position need to be filled.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Well, thank you, Shannon, for presenting this information.
Yep.
We are going to move on to our next agenda item, which is future agenda planning. Megan, you can stop sharing if it's you that's sharing. Thank you. Sarah.
Yes, maybe I've said this before, I don't remember, but I do very much want before the end of the school year, an update from the superintendent on whatever progress or thinking, what is the work that has been done regarding reconfiguring 6th grade education, what that's going to be, both the education part and the kind of facilities part. And what if anything has been in discussion about the school consolidation. Maybe it's just a framework for what has to happen, that's fine. But I don't want to wait till September to find out what needs to be done. Especially as Megan said, the discussions are happening. I'd like to be updated on this. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else for future agenda planning? If you think of anything, you can always email me. All right, our next item is executive session. So I move that the school committee vote to enter executive session in accordance with open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation regarding Doreen Reed and Maureen Fleming, because the chair has determined that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, with no intent to return to open session.
I'll second.
Seconded by Sarah. Any discussion? All right, Irv?
Yes.
Jennifer is a yes. Bridget?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
And Sarah?
Yes.
Thank you all. we're going to close the open meeting, and school committee members should use the executive meeting Google Meet link. Thank you all. Thank you to, oh, I guess the staff have gone. Thank you all. See you over there.